This is episode 140, just so you know. 24, we're waiting for. Sorry for the delay, guys. Intro music playing.
Yeah, it's 11:11. Perfect timing.
And hello. We won't go through the whole intro here since Tank and I are both online. Well, welcome to the Dank Live. I'm Dan Lutz. I'm here with
Tank.
Okay, so I have to make sure we got to work on this startup, so we cue each other.
Oh, that's right. I forgot we were going to come up with a clever intro.
Oh, and you had a new intro music and startup, right?
Oh, you know what? Actually, I was just here with my son, and I was just listening to the jam, and I realized I'm like, I actually am digging the song now. So,
Oh no, it's infectious.
So I guess you've got me mind control now. So I'm all in.
That's it. Well, how are things going? Any news? We'll get right to the news part before we get into other things.
Well, no, I did ask him about some things specifically in relation to the GCR today, and she did answer, which is good, which means she's around. She's very careful not to answer questions, but that are pertaining to things that are currently covert operations, I guess. But one of the things that happened is that, the GCR is all hot and heavy now, right? So,
did it happen?
No.
I didn't get the call, so I was expecting, the money again.
Well, the GCR is like, a really hot ex-girlfriend that you never actually hooked up with, right? She comes back around, teases you, and then she leaves again and breaks your heart. I mean, over and over and over again. So she's back, looking better than ever, but she,
teasing you.
Teasing, right? Exactly. So, anyways,
that's a perfect analogy. I mean, I have not heard a better analogy than that.
Exactly. So, now, but here's what's taking place currently is that so what they're looking for now is they're looking for this Dory bars. I think they're called Dory, and it's like it's allegedly golden bars that have been gold that has been pulled out of the earth. But it hasn't been hallmarked yet, right? Can
I tell you about what that is? Can I explain?
Yeah, please.
So what Dory bars are? It's actually when you are first grinding down the rock, right, and you're trying to extract the gold. The very first time you go and like melt it down, right, and you pull it aside from the basic other rock material. It's still not pure gold. You still have a lot of impurities in it. So they pour this into bars and they call it Dory. I don't know why it's called Dory. And those bars, it's not about it not being hallmarked yet. It's just that they're not pure yet. So usually when you're talking about hallmarked bars, they were going to label them at 90. So I think before it was like had to be 90% or something. Dory is 70% gold, I believe is the number. I might be wrong, but it's something like that. And that so you can have Dory bars, and you can you know, let's just say use them as a financial asset. But the problem is you really don't know what's inside them until they're actually gone through the refining process and then hallmarked. You can also go through the refining process and not hallmark. And the difference there is that if it's not hallmarked, it's not in the system. It can't be part of the asset drawing down cash into the system, right? Because you don't have the asset. So if you don't hallmark it, you can't get it into the system. And sometimes that's preferable, right? Because you want to keep it secret. It's your secret wealth, private wealth. Okay, so go on about your Dory bars.
Yeah. Yeah. So they were talking. So one of my
your audio's low.
Telling me how about now?
Better.
Can you hear me now? Better?
Yes. Yes, better.
Okay. So one of my very excellent sources who's very connected with all types of different aspects in the RV, and also realizes it's right now it's like a total sham, right? And so he doesn't get highs and lows or upset or disappointed as these reports come in, but he does a great job of telling me what's going on, which I appreciate. And he's got a lot better insight than most people. So he was telling me that they're looking for these Dory bars, and he suspects that the reason why is they're looking to leverage them as an asset to back whatever currency is out there that they're going to try to do the RV with.
Yeah, because they can't get a hold of the asset. Remember, that's what I said. They're not in the system.
Right. Exactly. And you're exactly. And now, so here's what is also, Thomas mentioned something last night about $148 billion or $148 billion in super notes that they keep trying to pull into the system that Kim is basically taking possession of because they're illegal, right? And they won't go back into the system. Now, I asked her because I wasn't sure if that was newly printed money or just residual from somewhere. And when I asked her about it today, she just mentioned that it was because I thought maybe they were trying to use this Dory bars to back that money. So I must have misunderstood Thomas, but basically she was saying she just referenced the 27 trillion that we talked about that was already taken out of the vaults.
But I don't think they can do that because the super notes are using previously used numbers, right? So they can't reuse them even if they're backed. They'd have to be new allocation numbers.
Yeah, no, yes, you are correct but they don't know that. See, they don't understand how the system works, right?
Yes.
And it becomes painfully clear the more we talk to people, right? Because now I'm getting contacted by CEOs and CFOs of real banks, right? Of smaller banks, but real people. Now, it used to be that every time I would try to get a hold of these characters, I would get blocked, because on the way to talk to the CEO, they would interfere with my communication so that they would basically, the gatekeeper would get involved. And he'd start spitting out his nonsense, and then we'd never get in touch. So now they're reaching out the other way. Because I think the writing's got to be on the wall somewhat, right? That they realize it's time for them to play ball or go out of business or become obsolete. So it appears, I take that as a very good sign, is my point, right? That, okay, we're making some progress because they're finally starting to, reach out to us, which is what it should be, by the way, if you think about it.
Right.
So because if you think about it, every bank out there that is part of this big scam, this whole scam to basically consume
the money,
be consumed. It's like they're going down, and I'll tell you, I have talked to Kim many times about these kind of things, and one thing has never really changed. She's held her ground on this stuff. That she's not going to compromise when it comes to us, right? Like now she's compromised in every way. Like she's offered all types of ways to compromise, but they never follow up on their end of the deal. So because of that, we know you can't trust them, right?
Right.
And they've been given years and years and years. And I mean, just in this, I don't know how she does it because, like when somebody just keeps doing something, it doesn't matter which direction you go, they always end up getting compromised. And, it's heartbreaking. Because think about it. What she's doing is she's working to help people. She's trying to help everybody and these guys over and over and over again. And at the end of the day, the saddest part is most of the people that end up stabbing us all in the back, they're just people. They're not bloodline. They're not some special hybrid, super mantis draconian human that, has been bred to follow orders, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're regular people who've been bribed or threatened or, just deceived who stay loyal to someone trying to kill them. That's sad. It's really, to me, it's very
Right.
sad.
Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah. And the whole world has basically, been a prison in that sense to us. And, we have to find the lawful way to break out of it. Um,
Well, it looks
I'll
like
tell
we
you.
are in the looks like we are in the lawful side of things. It's that they're the ones that are not, no longer following the law, which is
Yes.
so
Yes.
they should be accepting the funds to be drawn down into the system.
Yep. And so, you know, so not that I don't have any exact dirt as far as where we are now. One thing that Thomas said that I think is very very important is he said July 13th that we passed a timeline that basically makes it so our success or the liberation of humanity is the only option. There is no other timeline that all the other timelines will fall away. And so people who have memories of these other timelines where the bad guys won or whatever will start to fall away because we have passed them and we are in a really a new age of possibility, right?
Yeah, definitely it can be seen that this is lining up the offense from QAnon and Trump and the white hats. That it's proceeding, right, and it's looking, really bad. I mean, this one article that ABC put out talking. There was this, and I went over this on the front lines. Is a saying that Epstein's Island, the contractor was working there for 6 years, and he just couldn't take it anymore with these young 14 and 15-year-old girls running around topless, right? But he collected $400,000 from them over 6 years. And if you had moral outrage about this, right, it wouldn't have been after 6 years, right? You would have had the problem on the first round, right? The first time you were there, you had a contract. You said, I just can't do this anymore, right? You complete your contract and you never come back again, right? So then you have more. But after 6 years, no, that's just them trying to temper and change the narrative. They're trying to mitigate the damage. They say that Epstein only had young girls running around topless, right? Or that it wasn't a temple, it was a gym, right? And they brought out that these were cockatoos, two cockatoo statues, and they gave a picture of them, but they were in white, right, not gold. So whether or not they're the same ones, just goldified or not, I don't know. But bringing them to, obviously, still, because most people will look at it and say, well, yeah, that's true. That is a cockatoo statue, not that. So it must not be a temple. But it's when you bring them together, it forms the owl. So it's Jabal or
Well,
Mullen.
even a cockatoo has its own symbolism all by itself. You know, it's it means that you have friends on the other side.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. So that is it. So in addition to what you're talking about, which I agree with, there's also just a natural symbolism of a cockatoo by itself that you have friends on the other side. Now, I would say the other side of what right now. If you believe you have friends on the other side, you've built up a temple that is, Baalist in some level, right? Now, I would suspect there's a couple little things that I've heard that I couldn't really validate, but I have, I have a little experience with this stuff and talking to some really knowledgeable people on it. That, for example, like Atlantis, right? Now, Atlanteans, in one of the versions of the history, we're supposed to be here to help us integrate, the natural order of the planet, right? To help, there was the natural beings that were here with the Lemurians and whatever that represents, right? And when the Atlanteans came in, they were really supposed to integrate, some, uh, technology that was different than the biotechnology, so to speak, that the Lemurians were already mastering, right? Like they had the ability to, just cause things to grow and understood the earth so well. So the Atlanteans were supposed to integrate, right? Integrate that in this planet, and allegedly, and then they were taken over and infiltrated by shape-shifting draconians or whatever. But their colors were that royal blue and white that you see on that temple, right? And then the golden dome, right, that they show there, um, it seems to me like that is demonstrating some kind of power over that Atlantean energy, because the Atlanteans are supposed to be some kind of protectors, right? Something like that. So that's one of the theories I heard that I think actually makes sense to me. So you
Mm-hmm.
have this principle of exalting, because anytime you see that, these a lot of times when you see like a dome, like a yarmulke, right? If you ask somebody about the yarmulke, it's to symbolize that you're always aware that God is above you, right? Well, if you take a big golden dome, now that's a symbol the symbol that comes from Solomon's temple, right? Originally Solomon's temple, and that was actually designed so as if you were to attack, the light would shine off of the shields and the temple itself, and it would blind the enemy, right? But it was symbolic of the dome of a man sitting on a throne, right? So that to me it's a symbol of a man that they're exalting above to make sure the Atlanteans stay suppressed. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's some kind of witchcraft, right? So then you take
Mm-hmm.
the inside of that place, right? So you have friends on the other side, and then you take the inside of this temple, and you're constantly paying, homage to this god that you worship, and you're by making sacrifices and performing sexual rituals, which are all Baalist things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you make it look fairly innocuous and beautiful on the outside, but on the inside, it's filled with, it's Sodom and Gomorrah,
Right.
And I
So
and I, yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that uh, is it maybe just on the Atlanteans coming back at this time? Isn't this some of the story that we've been hearing out of Atlanta? I mean, out of Antarctica, right? Is that they've woken up? That these large beings, these giants, have awoken out of uh, their their hibernation chambers. Right? So maybe
Yeah,
they're
I mean that's been going on though for a while, I believe, and I think a lot of them, you have different. There's like three different. I'm sure there's more, but I mean at least three that I know of, different kinds of giants that are here. I know that there is a group of special ops Marines down in Afghanistan. One the first group was killed by this cannibalistic giant that was still alive, right, and came out like dressed in like Roman gear with a spear and a huge shield, right, like all ancient stuff. And then the next group of Marines went down and they saw the same thing, were frozen in fear for a minute. I think they killed another one of them, but then they took him out and killed him. And then the pilot who actually flew that giant back, right, he talked about it publicly and like told people about it. So that's one kind. And that is, I think, like the Nephilim, which have like the two rows of teeth, and the six fingers. Um, and then you
right.
have other giants that are from other planets, from what I understand, that are peaceful, right? And they what they do is because they're so big, they overpopulate the planet, and so then they get moved around, and they're very they're helpful, I guess, right? So in lesser developed
Especially
cultures,
in
I
building
guess.
pyramids.
Yeah, right. Like they would go and help build pyramids and other things like that, right? That's my
Yeah, they
understanding. I mean,
pick up one
eh,
one one of the 100-ton stones at a time with their hand and move it around.
and then you have another group of giants in there that it's a little hostile towards humans. That is a little more like a troll type thing, from what I understand. Now, those are three of the giants that were put in hibernation because there wasn't a purpose for them. That the cabal, basically was their only interaction with humans, and because that's who they believe were the elite humans. But then you also have like what like where the name the New York Giants comes from, right? Is actually from the 7 to 8 foot tall Iroquois Indian And the Iroquois Indian were they were the surviving descendants after like the Great Deluge from Atlantis.
Hmm.
Right? At least that's what I've been told, and that seems correct to me. Um, and so now they weren't giants, but everybody everybody back then was just bigger because the planet itself was healthier. So people grew larger. They were healthier. They were stronger. The actual quality and the nutrients of the food was more. The trees were bigger. They've done all types of research on this to show that a lot of these islands and huge rocks that look like an eagle or look like an elephant, they've done biologic testing on it to prove that it's petrified, but it is biologic. It actually was an animal.
Oh wow!
So
I did not
yeah,
I did not realize that.
yeah. So like if you ever were up at like the Thousand Islands, right up in like Canada, you have this one huge rock that is shaped just like an elephant. I mean, it looks details and everything. They've done biologic testing on it, and it was in fact an elephant. And it's so much bigger, it doesn't even make sense. It's like, how could that be? How could we have had elephants, any animal that big on the planet? I mean, big as like dinosaurs, right? And they've done that with like some others, and like eagles and different things that look rocks that look like an eagle, right? Like Eagle Point Rock, and they'll go and they'll do a biologic test on it. And like, oh, it's petrified, eagle. So so the
Yeah.
Smithsonian has been covering up these giants for years, right? They've been hiding it because that changes our entire history. Because now you have to explain, where did this come from? And you have to also explain things like David and Goliath. Like, was that mythology? And apparently no, right? And or something about it was true, right? And but the Iroquois, or the Atlanteans coming in and being as the Iroquois, they wrote the first Constitution that our Constitution is based on. And the Iroquois Nation was like, incredible, really. I mean, and imagine, they used the game of lacrosse as a way to settle conflicts between other tribes. Now, imagine if that was, that's how things were like. But I mean, the lacrosse field was a mile long, right? And the games were sometimes, it was a game to 5, and they would sometimes go on for 2 or 3 days, right? And it was all about who had the stamina and the power to finish. And so whoever, was like stayed and, survived that game, right, were like considered like, they were the warriors of the tribe. It wasn't until, I
Well,
guess.
I guess it's better than the armed conflict, with guns, right? Where people end up dead. So you do a sporting event that's more
Right.
civilized, to borrow a phrase.
Yeah, civilized. Yeah, like the British. They're always trying to civilize us. So, anyways, yeah. So I don't know. I mean, so I look at that whole island and Epstein Island, and I just consider those things, because there was obviously, a time where the Earth. I mean, the Earth is such an incredible thing when you think about all these places that are still unexplored with all the technology we have. It's like maps really don't do it justice. You look at a map or a globe, and you kind of feel like the Earth is a small place, it's a small world, but it's just not. It's so much more expansive than we appreciate, right? And
Right.
there's so much to it that we just haven't even explored, right?
Right. Well, it's. I mean, it's like our whole population giving us. I think it's 1 acre each. We'd fit in like the state of Texas, right? So we're not
Right.
overpopulated, right? And that's just first floor. We can always add another floor and double our population, right?
So now a true statistic that this past year in 2018, the population in the United States is the population growth is the smallest it's ever been, right? And it's like 4 out of 5 women, because this is like the first generation, right, that's coming to like childbearing age, who have been fed GMOs their whole life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they're showing that GMOs cause infertility and sterilization, right? In addition to fluoride and all these other ways they're trying to sterilize us. So you have this will be the first generation that is basically, going to be less healthy than the previous, right?
Right.
In the history of the United States. So it's kind of amazing when you think about that. And then the population growth is decreasing rapidly, right? And so really, we're not even growing. I think it's actually the lowest population total. So as they say, we're overpopulating population, even in the United States, which most people would consider to be, this empire and what a wonderful lifestyle we have. But the reality is, the reason why they say that is because we are very well entertained, right? We're the modern day Roman Empire. It's like, the Roman Empire was so great because, you'd have the gladiators go and you could all go watch for free and watch them kill each other, and they would keep the masses entertained. Meanwhile, while that's going on, they're stealing from us in 1,000 other ways and doing other things, right? So,
Right.
and that's what, so it's all very, very interesting to me that I think being past that timeline on the 13th makes perfect sense to me.
Well, I'm glad we've moved beyond. we're ready for this. So I was just thinking about this. These bloodline families that have been there, and have been separating themselves from us. And the elite, or the elite, the Elitians from the planet of Elite, right? This is just a made up name, right? People know.
Yeah, I know.
I'm letting if there's anyone new watching, right? So we made up a term for the elite. It's because they've separated themselves from humanity, breeding out caring and love from their offspring by giving their offspring to others in their group to raise. So there's no parental connection to them. I mean, if anyone could even think that this would be, hey, let's do this as a plan, right? I mean, it's so foreign to us, right? We want to take care of our children, right? We want. What was the name of that? Where you care for your children? What was that?
Philoprogenitiveness.
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 Genitive.
But philoprogenitive, right?
Philoprogenitive. Just to think that this would be something that they were. They strived for to eliminate this from who they are as a group. The funny thing is that we have care in us, right, and love, and they have taken it out of them. So they would never have sympathy, right, for us or caring for us, right.
Right.
Just we're just a resource, right? But we have these feelings that deal with them, and the people want to say, well, okay, let's not kill them off. Let's forgive them or whatever, right? Whatever the Christian way, forgive and let God judge them, and so on. So we're in this quandary, right? Because they'd have no remorse about doing anything to us, right? Moving forward, right? But how do we move forward in dealing with them? Right? Even if the Atlanteans come back and are helping us,
I don't think the Atlanteans have ever left. First of all, I think that's very. I think that many of us, probably have that same, blood in us. I think anybody who has Iroquois Indian in them has Atlantean in them, right?
Well, I've got Cherokee in me. I don't know about Iroquois, but
yeah, well, I'm not sure how they all connect, but I will say this, that what I actually think is this there's all these concepts that they've put out there for us, right? Like unconditional love. Now, there is such a thing as unconditional love, right? Like the way you feel about your child. Like you can't help but love your child. You just can't. No matter what they do, you're gonna love that child, right? Now they are an expression of you. Whatever they do, you're responsible for, right? Now, but you love them unconditionally, right? Now, but when it comes to a relationship where, like a marriage, let's say, well, there's conditions, right? Like I expect you not to go sleep with other guys, let's say, right? That's a condition of our relationship, because I might love you still afterwards, but it's not going to be the same, right? There's conditions, so to speak. Now, in this, with these other beings, because humanity as a whole, right now, like even as we speak, we're fighting for a lot of people much harder than they're fighting for themselves, right? We're actually, doing all we can for them as they're oppressing us, or not oppressing, but opposing us, right? So I'd say that's, in a sense, a form of unconditional love, right? In a sense, like, despite the conditions, we still have a love for humanity and what they represent and their potential. But when it comes to a group that, you know, are in positions where they want to remain in power in any way, well, there's conditions, right? Now, under these conditions, they have suppressed us in every possible way, been given every opportunity to do the right thing. Now, we are not, now, because we love humanity unconditionally, we are then obligated to eradicate threats that want to destroy humanity. It's just the way it is. We don't have to keep letting them walk on us. Now, that's a lesson to learn, right? Like Tui's always talking about these lessons we have to learn. Now, that's not hateful to do that. It's really it's an act of love for my children. It's an act of love for my fellow man. Or fellow woman, whatever. It's an act of love. And to me, I have no conflict with it. There's no question. There's no place for that mentality to exist here. And now, if you've taken your children and turned them into psychopaths, well, they have to die too, or they have to leave the planet, let's say, and be repurposed or whatever. I don't know. I mean, if death, I mean, death's an illusion, right? So it's not like
Yeah.
we ever cease to exist. So just putting them in a different place, and we're certainly not. We certainly are not going to make a culture where they're able to devour each other. I mean, that would be cruel and unusual punishment all by itself. You know, so it's actually merciful, in my opinion, to put them out of their misery for the most part.
Yeah, well, I hear what you're saying. So I'm also thinking like there's this we hear that the children of the elite that don't want to follow in these footsteps anymore, even though they were brought up in it. They're still still have humanity still inside them, and they turn against their elders. And this is the group that may be allowing things to break loose in this financial system too, right? You're talking about some of these bank owners contacting you directly, right? So it's kind of like there's no, so it's hard to make a blanket. Okay, you're on that side. Okay, okay, now you go to the firing squad, right? You're treasonous or whatever, right?
No, and that is, but at the same time, there also, there has to be an understanding, even on their part. Like, look, maybe you weren't part of this. We will never know, right? Because this is the culture. Now, even in that, there's still an inbred sense of elitism that we're better
Yeah.
than you. There's a hierarchy, and we're at the top of it, and that can't exist in a culture. Now, what Kevin was saying the other night, and by the way, I apologize again to Kevin. I apologize on my show, and I do want to apologize for being so so short with him and indirect. But the problem is that we're in a time where to capture people's attention is essential, and to get out a message that has an impact in a way that will resonate. And I say
Right.
this all the time, to everybody I talk about when it comes to communication. It's better to give people one thing they can never forget than a whole lot of things they will never remember, right?
Right.
And we can't compromise that right now. We have to be effective in what we're saying. We have to be effective in how we say it. You know.
I was talking with Kevin afterwards off the air, and he was, trying to get. And I said, "Listen, I heard everything you said, and made no sense of what you were trying to tell me. So, what is it that you're trying to let me know?" And it was again a lot of more details. I said, "Listen, this is not what we need. All right, this is something that is very broad. We need like first the answer to the question of why is this important." What is this going to
Right.
do for us right now? I said in my book that I've been studying the scarecrow entity to the tax system to the financial system my whole life for the most part. At least from the age of 15. So I understand there's a lot there, but what I do know is no matter how much we dig down in any direction, it's a lot of minutia. It's a lot of stuff. I think it's best we just recognize that it all needs to be replaced with something better, regardless of what was laid down in the past, because we cannot figure out the mess that they've made of things. We have to create a brand new system. We have to recognize a system that's in place and allow it to transition and the old system of debt-based slavery system to fade away, because we cannot flip a switch. It doesn't, that won't work. We'll end up with a lot of misery. To minimize that, we have to, like, over 2 to 5 years, allow that to fade away. But we come up with a new system that recognizes the individual, and that their sovereignty and what they add to the system, and that they can be ownership of the things that they're doing, right? And they're participating. If they're buying land, it's their land. They can pass it down, and their family. There cannot be tax on it, right? Because this is all part of extraction from the people, where where we have to realize that we're the source of all of everything, of reality. So we have to create the new system, regardless of the minutia that's there and the fine print and the smoke and mirrors. We just declare that we're now moving forward as all of humanity. You know?
Well, you're absolutely right, but one thing that they've definitely tricked us into doing, right? And this is the attorney the other night who was on our show talked about what is it called? Informed consent, right? So they get us to consent to things without really telling us what's happening, right? Now, you can fight that, right, if you didn't understand it, right? Now, one of the things that I think is really important for people to do right now is I think there needs to be a comprehensive kind of bullet pointed list of things you need to know. Now, we are doing that, actually. This gentleman, Ron Davis, who is a common law expert, I talked to him today for about 3 hours. And, like most guys who are really experts in common law, man, he's spitting off all types of ordinances and regulations and stuff. And we talked about it. But he was so smart about it and open minded that we broke it down, and we both agreed to start shooting, and setting up videos. And we're going to do instructional videos that are like 5 minutes long, like 5 to 10 minutes, keep people's attention, and give them a play-by-play. I'm going to actually set up a whole channel for them, and we're going to just make it part of the Speak project. And on that, what we'll do is we'll have these 5-minute clips that will explain very clearly. Here's the first thing you need to know about law, right? Like I didn't know the term legal meant the opposite of lawful. I didn't even know that until today.
Oh yeah. So that's the one that I forgot about. I haven't been thinking about that one for a long time. There's so many of them, right? It's like they have us coming and going on everything. Well, that's why we just can't. There's no way to figure it all out. I think what we have to really look at is go by our heart on this. We have a feeling that something is not right. We have a feeling about what is correct and the way we should be. And that's what we have to base things off of. We use our intellect to structure this, but we can never decipher everything. We need to have some general principles, and you're correct. To say these are the things, the 10 things we got to realize, and the 10 things we have to do. That's great. We come up with that list and we go with it, but we have to know that we have to create something that is new. It is based upon love and caring, right? And through our intellect, we basically wield it, right? This structure that we need to put into place, right? But recognizing that we need to do things differently.
Yep.
We have a good model.
I agree.
We can know what we don't want.
One thing I've always, like you and I talked about this the other day about going back to the implementation of allowing these statutes to overwrite our constitutional rights. And the only reason why that's been allowed to play out is because the dramatic emphasis they put on money as being the, ingrained in us to be the source of our success, right? Like I remember this. I used to have a very good relationship with a Guatemalan family, and they looked at El Chapo, right, being from Guatemala, as a hero. and they would talk to me about how there's you know the affluent areas in Guatemala, would all be gated communities, and it would be all drug dealers, right? And it was known. It was just a business, right? Now the the president of Mexico, right? He just seized $12.5 billion of El Chapo's fortune, right?
Wow.
And but in this, what no one talks about is, well, isn't it the Mexican government that allowed it to go on? And yes, it was.
Yeah.
I mean, he was in Forbes magazine, like 10 most richest people on the planet or something like that.
Same as the
One time.
U.S. government and the British government and all the governments of the world allow it to go on because it's the people in charge that are actually behind ultimately
Right.
the moving of this for funding of their dark side.
Right. And I mean, like El Chapo had like his own submarine that he was like bringing drugs in. He brought drugs in through cans of like I don't know, I forget what it was, like hot tamales or something. Like he was putting drugs in. Like this was normal, right? This was normal practice, right? Like he had all types of gizmos and gadgets. I mean, you don't get like that without some help from the government or the government agencies that are literally watching everything happen, right? I remember Fisher, who was really a mentor to me, and worked directly with several different aspects of the government, special ops, CIA, the Majestic 12, right? And he would tell me all the time. He said, "Look, you're not doing anything wrong." Because at one time, people were saying they were trying to run me under the bus, and they were saying the FBI has a file on a tank. And Fisher was like, "Well, I'm sure they do have a file on you. And matter of fact, if they don't have a file on you, you're doing something wrong, right? Because they're keeping track of anybody who's trying to make a difference." And then he said, and I asked him if I was in any danger, and he was like, "No, you're not in any danger." He goes, "If the FBI wanted to take you out, they just show up and take you out, right?" So, I mean, because they know what you're doing. Like we all know, like you hear a couple beeps on your call, they're listening to your call. I mean, I look at it like this. I know what I'm saying and what I'm talking about on a regular basis. So I literally approach every conversation knowing they're listening. And then I consider who's listening. Well, probably who's listening is regular people like me who have kids, right? And they have family that they want to protect. Now, why would you take out someone like us who's trying to protect your family? And you're in a
Right.
situation where you're compromised, right? But in this opportunity, you get to actually have an impact on them. So I appreciate them listening. At least I know I'm reaching somebody, you know. And on top of that, I look at it like this, it's like I hope our leaders get the calls, right? I hope they hear us. We're putting on a clinic on how to do this, right? On what it means to be human.
Yeah, that's it. We need to have a human university on how to become human, how to be human,
How to be human.
how to be human. Class 101, how to be human.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Well, we've got a lot of work to do.
we certainly do. Certainly do.
I'm just I'm glad we're actually making some strides here. There's someone I'm going to want you to talk with. It's one of my other members of the Entente indigenous tribe, right? That we formed some 7-8 years ago, and I reconnected with him. I haven't been speaking with him too much. He's been caught up in building his business so that he can survive, right? And but he's got some time. I'm having him come in, and we're gonna talk about providing content on the wwg1wga.love site and trying to get it rolling with these different categories or front lines that we need to cover. But I think he's also very good to help organize, our efforts. Right? He's very good at that part. I worked with him for about 5 years on a pretty much daily basis. He's also accomplished in business prior. He'd done many kind of business things. So anyway, but there's other people that are showing up. I think everyone's showing up to do these things. also expecting to speak with Juanita, who is here in the Philippines, who's an attorney working on child trafficking. We're talking about doing an interview. She'll come on and we'll she'll probably come to my home and we'll do this somehow. How do we do that with two people here? I guess side by side like this, we'll talk or something like
Well,
that.
Dan, we picked up Zoom today. So we have like we can actually use Zoom if we need to.
That's good. Yeah, no. Well, we should attempt to maybe do that tomorrow. So
I,
we
I'm
can
I'm
do.
talking to Juanita tomorrow. So when I talk to her, actually I might talk to her tonight. Here in a minute. So we'll see how she I'll ask her what she wants to do. But that's a good idea. I think it's a good idea to bring her on. And you know
Yeah. Well, I want to introduce her to some of the government people here. Some people that can help organize some things that have real power to things. So we'll have that meeting. Uh, you know, I hope we'll figure it out this week, and maybe next week we'll broadcast from some of these meetings, talk about some of this or video some of it, and I'll upload it later. Uh, so I think
one thing with all this, Dan, I was thinking about what Thomas said about the timeline, right? That we've never gotten this far. After July 13th, right? We've passed a point now. You know, I'm sure there's a deeper understanding to all that, but in my opinion, if I look at that, what it says to me is for the first time, maybe in our life, the decisions we make right now have a much larger impact, right? So if you look at every decision you make from here on out as a kind of an opportunity to choose life, to choose love, to choose joy, to choose peace, to choose a higher path and a higher calling, then I just believe it'll put us all in just a significantly better time where this time that we're in, it's never been done before, right?
right.
So that makes me happy. I'm very encouraged by what's going on.
All we need is a massive amount of money dumped in our laps.
I remember Kim said to me one time, she said, it's either going to take an act of God or a truckload of money. One of those things. And I think
Oh,
those
we'll
things are
take
connected.
both.
So,
We'll take both
yeah,
happening
right.
simultaneously.
Right, exactly. I'll take a truckload of money and demonstrate what it looks like to be God acting versus an act of God. Or better yet, just how about the actions or the behavior, the disposition, the being of God manifest in the flesh? We'll just go out and demonstrate exactly what that looks like and just be our little fractal of God, of source or whatever.
I think we experienced it on June 28th with this silent sun, where the sun went quiet, and then these gateways opened into the uh, magnetic cords that are stretching between the planets and the sun, and so that realignment, that vibration change, I think that is an act of God. At that point, recognizing that we're all in sync, have restructured things moving forward. So yeah, basically 2 weeks after that, we're past this Thomas time point that he pointed out, that we're past all those other timelines. So now we're in a completely new, and what we're building here is happening. So yeah, at any moment, the money can flow out into the hands of Fiji or into the banks, and they're willing to move it through into projects. When we see that, I really see these arrests happening, like Epstein, and who's to follow. When that starts, when the boom starts coming down on them, right? The others that have been standing on the side saying, they're telling me not to let the money flow. They're going to say, oh, well, I better be on the right side of things. And they'll start moving the money. I really
Yeah,
think
I know.
we'll see those things happening.
So, and I think they're, I mean, it's weird. It's, I don't have a good, like Kim was always very, Kim's really a great teacher, and she was always, been very patient with my ignorance in a lot of things, that I've learned over there. And I pick things up pretty quick, but when I pick up one thing, I might go all in on it, and then there's a whole bunch of other stuff I'm still missing, right? So all
Yeah.
my kind of self-righteous indignation will come crashing down as I'm wrong about something. So
That's okay.
but
That's part of the fun ride of it, right? That's where
yeah, no,
I'm always happy to discover when I'm wrong.
me too, me
It's
too.
better,
I agree with that.
to embrace it.
Yeah,
And
on
then
some
move.
issues more than others, but yeah, definitely.
I just don't want to be wrong on this one. That's it. I'm putting my foot down.
Yeah, I know. Right.
Yeah.
So it's all good. Thank God it's Friday. Not that it matters because I have no concept of weekends. It's like my life is one constant. It's like we are always in the grind, which I love
Well,
what
this
we're
is
doing.
our 140th show in a row.
Yes, indeed, man. Thank you for keeping that alive. I love it. I love it.
We're
You know.
going. But tell Kim, we'd like a vacation.
Well, I think I was thinking about it. It's like for you, I think it just makes you look like, hey, you're just a hard worker. You wake up early and you get to it, right? For me, it kind of looks lame because like I have no social life, right? Because this is what I do every night. So,
Oh, well, thanks a lot. I think I don't know if that's a backhanded compliment or the
no, not
reverse.
at all. Not at all. Not at all. Backhand compliment. No, you're after. Nah,
Well, I've got no
right.
social life either. I mean, it's really hard for me to break away and go somewhere because this. If I leave and go to Manila after this, I'm really looking at 8 hours of traveling that day, right? So there's no socializing during that, and I meet someone for an hour out of that.
I know.
Yeah, and have things roll, but that's okay. It doesn't. It's only happened twice last month, and probably twice the month before that. But this is part of why things are materializing in our direction. Our reality is shifting because we're maintaining our focus and continuing. Right. It's all because
Well,
of Dank.
I agree, and I'll tell you, I am. All jokes aside, I am so grateful. I am so grateful and appreciative to be able to contribute to this change in any way. I really am. I mean, this is a monumental shift in human consciousness, in human development, in human innovation. Um, and I am glad to be, you know, uh, part of it, and be able to help and be able to, I think it's one of the most natural things, like, what this is like when you're a kid and like your dad's working on the car or something, like you just want to help, right? Because it's natural for us to want to contribute, just how we
Right.
are, right? And I feel that way right now. That I'm just very grateful to be able to play a part, you know, and whatever part that is, I want to do my best at it, and I think we're doing a good job. I do, and I'll tell you, I'm very humbled by, I have a team of incredible people at the Speak Project, right, and they work so hard and they just pull together such amazing things. Even when my right hand Sidori, I mean, she was traveling to New York today, and even in traveling to New York, she was calling us and she got three kids in the back, and they're driving all over, because they're just committed to the change, right? They're committed, they're
Right.
dedicated to the purpose of what we're doing, and I just think the more of us that are inspired to be that way and take up that charge unapologetically, right? I just think that is the key to the shift in all humanity. That we realize that the purpose and value in what we're doing is able to impact others, and so makes us more responsible, in what we say and what we do and how we act.
Right.
So
Right. So
I appreciate it.
we are the change.
We are the change, like Gandhi said. Gandhi said, "When your thoughts, your words, and your actions are in harmony, or are in agreement, that is the definition of happiness. Happiness is that." Yeah. Okay, that
That
wasn't a
makes
perfect Gandhi quote, but you get the idea, right?
Yeah. Well, we're doing it. So I'm going to ask everyone who's watching this to bring someone else to this broadcast. please do something to get someone. Either you send one link to someone, put it on your social media, grab a link, and ask them to watch this, and then ask them to subscribe. If we get five, six, 700 people on one of these broadcasts watching over 5 days, we should have that growth of 500-600 people growing, right? And if we do it every day, we will get into the hundreds of thousands. But we can't rely on the YouTube search engines for them to push us up front. It won't happen. We have to push it. So please do that little step of reality changing effort to grab the link, get it into the hands of other people. We have people that are doing that, and we are growing, but we're also shrinking, because they have us on this setup. It's very funny. We're stuck at 13,000 subscribers. We were up at 13,012 earlier today. I looked later. We had lost 2. It was 13,010.
Yeah, that's crazy.
In a span of like, I don't know, half an hour or something like that. And and then it's like we're just moving forward slightly. Let's see if we can push through. So I encourage everyone, get someone else to watch this and subscribe.
Yes, indeed. I agree. And by the way, yeah, go to the YouTube page for Speak Project, please, and subscribe to it too, because we're trying to break through a bunch of blockades they have on us as well. And we haven't been doing this as long, but certainly we know interest is growing every day. And I mean, we're, Sidori and that team, they're putting together a lot of great work, and we make sure, now we're not monetizing anything, but everything we do, we share with Dan to use openly as well, because
So just so you know, this in the description below is the Speak Project YouTube link, so you can click on it
good.
there. Also is Thomas's down below as well, so you can get to those from there. At least I believe it's for the YouTube as well. It might be just for the website. I thought I put it on there, but let me check and see while we're talking here. I can find where our broadcast is. I lost our broadcast. All right. Here we are. So I'm looking in the description down below. I've got the I got the websites listed there. I'll go ahead and make sure to add the subscription link for both of those.
Cool. Appreciate it.
I think I may have had that on the Frontlines description. I may not have updated the Dank one, so I'll go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I'm gonna put we organized our YouTube page as well, because we're gonna put more of a focus on that, and we set up platforms for Breitbart and Vimeo and everything else, because we're just gonna try to build. We're just gonna put them all out there, and we're gonna feature your YouTube on our page as well, so that it's there.
Yeah, there's several of them out there that seem to be starting to get a foothold. Vimeo, I wouldn't really rely on. It's part of Google, just so you know. So it could be any different. But there are some that are other. I guess Brighteon is back. So I would do Brighteon. They have a new interface and everything. They were still through some legal battles because they were being pushed down, right?
Right, of course.
They made it through, so that's another one. And then I said like Gab seems to be good. BitChute is another one for videos. It seems to also be independent and growing. So we should support the ones that seem like they're already making tracks, right? So that we could have 100, but that doesn't help us. But if we had 3 in each category that we could support outside of Facebook and YouTube and Google, there's also a new browser that doesn't store your data, and you can earn cryptocurrency while you use it. slip that in, but it's called the Brave browser, SGT report. They support that. So that might be something to look into. I haven't done it yet, but it is something that does have some appeal to it.
Well, that's exciting.
All right.
So Gab, you say is good. See,
Yeah.
I learned, by the way, everybody out there, that when I take all Dan's suggestions now, right, rather than learning the hard way, which is my method of learning the hard way. So he said go with Zoom the whole time, and I kept trying other things, and now we finally realized, oh, Zoom is definitely the best option. So we'll be using Zoom from here on out.
Yeah. So Gab is good. They were part of a deep state false flag event to get them out, to shut them down. That was that bombing event that went on in the synagogue in Florida. I think it was in Florida. That was shutting down Alex Jones.
Okay, right.
Right. They were targeting both Alex Jones and Gab at that time. They went after Gab's server companies that were hosting them, right, and other things that were causing them. But they're just like Twitter, right? But they have a slightly different interface, but it's very close to Twitter. So not a steep learning curve, and they have they had such a big following. That's why they were a threat, right? They were already in tens of millions of people using them monthly.
Wow.
Right. So it's not like as big as Google, right, or YouTube or Twitter, but at least there is something that we can all flock to and use that seems to have some staying power, and we can start getting followings, so we know that we're reaching people, and that's what we're talking about. It's the social networking of it.
Yep, absolutely. Cool in the gang.
Yeah.
All right, man. Tomorrow night, same time, same Dank channel.
Okay. All right. We'll talk later. Goodbye, everybody. Subscribe. The Speak Project as well, and the WWG1WGA LOVE channel as well. All right, everyone. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye bye.
All right, bye.